I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Is it true that you had on your Twitter profile that you worked at Goldman Sachs and that was replaced by just saying businessman? Is that true?
I'm not sure. I'll have to check. I'm no longer managing my social media.
Are you proud of having worked for Goldman Sachs?
I'm proud of what I learned at Goldman Sachs, absolutely. So, well, go ahead.
I mean, they've been in this campaign already because Heidi Cruz worked there. What do you think of people who criticize their role in our economy?
Look, I think Americans feel like they're not being heard in our current system, and they feel like banks and other major financial organizations have some kind of fast or inside track in our system. That's the real problem. We've got to make sure that Americans...
But is there some validity to that argument? In other words,
I think so.
People at Goldman Sachs get really rich.
I think so, but I think we've got to be careful because we need banks and we need a strong financial sector so that our entire economy thrives and grows. I mean, we just have to have it.
So what's the valid about the criticism of Goldman Sachs?
Well, I don't necessarily think that the criticism of Goldman Sachs specifically is valid, but I would say of the financial sector, of banks in general, that maybe undue risks were taken with people's retirements, essentially, before the crash, and I think we have to look at that, and we have to ensure that that doesn't happen again. And some of that is driven by greed, and there are issues associated with all of that. But let me tell you about my experience at Goldman. I worked with companies in the healthcare sector, in the industrial sector, in the technology sector, consumer packaged products, and others. And I met with CFOs and CEOs and other members of the management team in those management teams in those companies, and I learned directly from them what challenges they were facing and what business models they needed to succeed.